February 2013 was one of the worst days of my life. I was a month and a half into my gap year and was living in Edinburgh, in Scotland. I was living with three other gap students, two boys, Ollie, who is from Sydney like me, and Kahu from New Zealand, as well as another girl called Sydney, from South Africa. It was on this particular day that the four of us had a massive argument, the first since living together. I had read messages between Sydney and Kahu about how they did not want to spend the entire year living with me. Obviously, after reading this, I became very upset. I already felt left out of the group, which was only exacerbated by the fact that I was only 17, whilst they were 18. They would go clubbing at least 3 times a week, and I could not go with them. After screaming at Sydney, I broke down in tears. I felt completely alone. I rang my mum back in Australia, yelling about how I wanted to come home and how I hated them all. I was inconsolable, crying on the floor of the apartment. I was a complete wreck. I had never felt more alone. A week later, after all going our separate ways on holidays, we all made up. In that time, I had turned 18. This changed everything. I immediately felt more included in the group and could go out with the other three. We all went travelling together throughout the year and became extremely close. I consider Ollie and Sydney to be amongst my best friends, and I had the best year of my life. But looking back on this particular event, I see how petty it was, especially when comparing my worst day with Sydney's. I couldn't even say which one was her worst. She's had a few in her lifetime. Her father left her family when she was 3. When she was 16, her mother passed away from a heart attack. Her dad came back into her life then, but she has never had a proper relationship with him. In fact, she hates him. She's had to assume the role of mother to take care of her younger sister whilst living in separate countries. And whilst I was living with her in 2013, her aunt passed away from suicide. My problems seem pretty petty now. Only now have I realized how lucky I am. I still have 2 healthy parents, and they are still married, and I have loving a family and wonderful friends. Touch wood.